Hey guys, and welcome to Pheas Airsoft, where today I'm going to install this Perun V2 hybrid in this Spectre Arms AR. Hey guys, and welcome back. If you do enjoy this content today, please do consider liking, commenting and subscribing, because you really help me out. Those interactions help me get seen by the YouTube algorithms and help the channel grow. If you do want to support the channel a little bit more, the join button is just down below. That will join you up to my channel membership. It's just 99 pence a month or equivalent in your country. That gets you custom videos, custom bloopers, private chat room and your own giveaways as well. Totally optional, massively appreciated if you do that. Last but not least, down below is my Linktree link, which will take you to all of my socials, including my Discord, which if you haven't joined yet, please do so. It's a really great community that's got going on there. So hopefully you are here to see how to install this Perun hybrid into this AR. So this is a Spectre Arms AR. I can't remember the specific model. And the owner, Loey, is having a few issues, so he sent me it. He has sent me the whole gun. It just came like this, and this is all I really need, to be honest. He has sent me this whole gun to repair. So it has come as default with a XASR, standard MOSFET. He's having a few issues with it and just generally wants me to spruce it up, mostly because he wants the programmable features of the V2 hybrid. So we're going to get into the Gearbox in a second, and we're going to have a look at how to install it. What I have done is I'm not expecting a particular increase in rate of fire or anything like that, but just out of interest, on a 7.4 volt LiPo, this was doing about 15.6 rounds per second, and on an 11.1 volt LiPo, it was doing, was it about 26 rounds a second? It was like, whoo, kind of moment. So let's get into this and let's see what happens and if there is any real change afterwards. So we'll just open the body up. Obviously, this will depend on your particular model, and obviously doing your appropriate strip down. Oh, that was really in there. Now for this, we don't need the upper at all. The entirety of what we need is this lower. There goes the quite easy. Now looking at this, it looks like Loey may have caused a little bit of damage in there. Now the issue he's been having is that the warning lights on the ASR are telling him after a couple of shots, or every now and again will just indicate that the motor wires are on the wrong terminals, which I can assure you they were not, but obviously that's what it was saying. So I'm guessing that the wires are shorting out somewhere. They've been compressed in places by the looks of it, which is not great, but we're going to fix that now. So just taking the two screws out of the pistol grip, one's come out, there it is, the other one is still in its hole. We've just got this back body pin here and the trigger pin to knock through. Just get a punch, that's going the wrong way. That and the not actually unboxed yet a Spectre. If you have a particular model that I'm hearing that I want to say core are worth unboxing. If you do have a particular model that you think I should really go and look at and try and unbox, then do let me know in the comments down below. There goes that back body pin. Now let's take that out. Take those out. There we go. So we'll get rid of the quick change. just make our life easier. Wow, that came out nice and easy. There it goes. And let's flip that over. Louis, none of these screws were tight. They were all very, very loose. So let's split this gearbox. Okay, it's a gearbox. Right, so get rid of those because we're not going to need those for now. What I am going to do is I'm just going to do a couple of checks that I said I would do separate follow it as part of this install. So I'll be back in a second once I've done those checks to finish off the rest of this install. So done those checks, basically the shim was a little bit off and a little bit tight, so I've just corrected that follow it just to sort it out for him. So just shuffle those out of the way a little bit and shift that out of the way. So all I've done at the minute is I've got the anti-reversal latch out, that's it, nothing more, just that. So I'm now ready to take the gear set out, get them out of the way. Obviously be careful not to lose any shims that might be left behind. Those are the little washers that the gear sit on. I'm going to lift the trigger up and out the way. Where am I? Oh, that's really wedged in there. In fact, we'll get the trigger block out first. Well, oh, there we go. Just needed a bit of working out there. So the trigger's out. We're going to put something on the trigger in a minute, the magnet holder. So we're going to put that to one side. Next one we're going to do is we're going to remove the cutoff lever. We no longer need the cutoff lever. What we do need is to retain the actual screw that is holding it down. So that screw there, I'm going to keep to one side because I'm going to use that in a second. This can come up and out of the way because the sensors on the board will now deal with that. I'll get rid of the spring on the other side as well. I'll do that in a second. And then the trigger block is going to come out because we're replacing this as well. So I'm just going to lift that trigger off there. And of course, by trigger, I mean spring. God's sake. There we go. Comes off. And then undo this little screw down here. And is that the only screw? That is the only screw. That should lift up and out. The wiring is tucked behind this, which is actually going to be helpful when we're fitting the MOSFET in to keep it out of the way. Get that out of the way. There's the trigger spring out of the way. There's the old trigger block out of the way. The little screw that was in there before, we can get out of the way. Now at this point, the physical lock for the trigger is actually optional. You can leave it in, but you can also remove it because the MOSFET itself will know when it's in safe. What I'm going to do is temporarily, I'm going to remove it. So just for my own sort of prosperity later, that is the orientation of it. And the spring sits on top like that. The reason I'm doing this is because I need to take the selector plate out to put a sticker on it. So I've lifted that up and off. I'm going to keep that in the right orientation. I'm going to drop that little lever down and out. And then the selector then, I'm going to flip over. I'm trying to not disturb those shims too much. I'm going to pull this spring off. There it goes. Find that in a minute. It's there, stuck to the side of the motor. That can go now, and that we're going to slide forward and out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I clean and dry this thoroughly on here first, so that I can attach the sticker that needs to be on there. So just wash that off and just drying it off, make sure it's nice and dry. Now we're going to bring in the stickers, so the selector stickers. So all we're going to do is exactly as the diagram shows, is that the sticker itself has got a white edge and a black box. I'm just going to make sure that the white edge is lined up down here, and we get 3 stickers to attempt this with. Or if you've got an ICS, you've got 2 stickers to use with your selector plates as well. So I'm just going to position that along that edge. Now it does say in the PDF manual on their website that if you're having issues detecting where safe and semi is, that you can sort of, semi and auto is, you can actually reposition this sticker a little bit further back. I think it's about 1/2 mil at a time, just to get it to sort of detect the locations properly. Now I'm quite happy with that. Now before I put that back in, I'm just going to sort of give this a bit of a clean round in here, because we don't want too much gunk in and around here, mucking things up. It is largely quite clean though. I'm going to put the selector plate back in, so that just slots back into place like that. Might need to put a little bit of pressure on just to get it in position. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do is, this is causing me a concern. So basically, I'm going to do what I do with the TK45s, just because it won't go as far back as I was hoping. And there is a shim popping out. Good to know where that come from. Right there. So I'm just going to shave down this edge right here, just to take the edge off it a little bit. So just got a small thing, and I'm literally, basically it was catching the sticker. So I don't know if you can see, I'm probably going to do it on both corners, to be honest, just to make sure, but it's just nicked into the sticker there, and it's nicked into the sticker there. That's obviously not a good thing. Possibly might not interact with it at all, but I want to be certain that it's absolutely safe. So I'm just literally going to file the corner off just there. As you can see now, it's now a bit silvered on there where I'm filing off, and I'm going to do the same on this edge here in a second. Right, make sure you give that a good clean up, because we don't want any dust getting into our onto or into our gearbox and our MOSFET trigger system. Now, let's drop that back into place now and see how that looks. There goes the other shim from under the middle gear there. Right, what I'm going to do briefly, just to check things over, is I'm going to drop that together, and then I'm going to drop that into there, and I'm going to see basically right, has that damage. So what I've done there is just move the selector up and down, and it looks like it's not even getting that far anyway. So we're absolutely fine. We're absolutely golden in there now. So we are actually now ready to put in our MOSFET. So there's the MOSFET system. This hole here is where we're going to use the screw that we took out of the cutout off lever to mount it down. And it's literally just going to drop in like that, and there's not many places it can go, so obviously just try and keep it as sort of central as possible around that. I see as soon as it's on there properly, there's literally like no movement to it, or virtually no movement. So I'm just going to secure this down now. Now this is different to like a gate tighten, because you would have to have like an insulating washer and then another washer. So they've obviously put some sort of coating that they are suggesting is more than good enough, strong enough to deal with this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to route the cables. Now the order to route these is, the first one is the very thin red one. It needs to be routed round under the clip there and out to the back. The next one to be routed is the long black one. It needs to be routed next. So again, keeping it under this hole here, just lift that up to show you. This hole here needs to be kept clear, because this is where the body pin goes through by the trigger. So I'm just going to pull that a little bit tighter under there, better. I'm going to loop that round there I'm going to drop. So the long black wire is the next one, again, making sure it still stays well clear of that hole. Goes down, loops under, into the little clip, and up and out the back. Easy peasy. The next one is we're going to route the short black wire down the same track, around this screw and out to the bottom, and then the short red wire comes back in at the back here, and then down and out. So there we go. Keep that held in with my thumb. So we got the red wire went down first, round under this clip here, up the back and out. The long black one went down, round under this clip here to keep it out of the way of the motor, up and out. The short black one came down, round this screw and out the back here. And then the short red one came back into the gearbox and down and out at the bottom there. So just make sure those are sort of kept nice and neat and down at the bottom there, so they're out of the way of the trigger that's going to sit in here, and obviously out of the way of this body pin as well. So the next thing to do is the magnetic holder for the trigger. So here is the magnetic holder for the trigger. It's got two little screws on it, here, and then an adjuster on top. Now all we're going to take out initially is these two here. Now I'll be honest, you do need to be very careful, because even their own literature says be very careful, because the plastic in this, when you screw in back in again, can damage quite easily. So be very gentle with it. You know, it's not metal on metal screws, so be careful. So I'm just going to take the lid off. So this is the magnet exposes underneath. Just going to open that up. There we go. Flip it open. Bring in my trigger. So the trigger just sits in there like this. Nice and easy. And bring the top cover back in now. There we go. Like that. And I'm going to screw the two little screws back in. I kept them in the right order so I knew which one was which. And I'm going to be quite gentle with it. That's one. That's two. Now, it may be that there may be a little bit of movement in there when you've done that. So what you can do is adjust this screw going down. There we go. You can adjust this screw down. Now this one, there is no movement in there whatsoever for me, so I don't need to adjust that. That's rock solid in there. I'm happy with that. But you could adjust this screw down to take up any slack. There we go, focus on that. Just take up any slack in there. So that is ready now to go in. Before I put the trigger in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the sector gear. And what I'm looking for and checking for is that it goes through, as you can see, the sensor line there needs to more or less be in a line as it is there with the edge of the gear without the teeth, and then it will detect the teeth coming round. It's not rubbing anything, it's spinning nicely. So I am happy with that. Lovely, so I'll take that back out for now. Put that down. Next thing I need to do is I'm just going to briefly drop that in. Now what I should be seeing is that the trigger sits against this metal post here, which it does look, it's locking against that, that's good. Tell you what I forgot to do, I forgot to put the cutoff back in. So let's put that in, let's get that back in. This is going to be fiddly. Again, as I said, this is optional, and Perun themselves do say that this is optional if you wanted it back in. And it might be that after the magnet's gone back, the magnet holder has gone in, this, you know, it might not fit. So you could shave this down a little bit so that you still have a physical safety, or it could be that you just decide that you're going to remove it completely. There we go. So that's back in there. Right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the trigger and its spring back in to test this. So the spring goes in the side of the trigger like that. There's a little tiny side bit that just goes in there, and then this drops in here. Should get ready, members, this might be a blooper coming up. No, sorry, members, it wasn't a blooper. Right, so holding that wiring in there, it's still jumping out. So I am happy that that is sitting on there. When the gearbox shell is on, that will be on there. That trigger is entirely pullable, and when it's in safe, now that's probably going to need shaving down just a touch. Right, so what we'll do. This is sensible. This is why I do this, so you don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to drop that on. Just make sure that's seated right. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that into the body. Like that. Just pull the wiring out. Back. Make sure it's not getting nicked anywhere or caught anywhere. Right. Temporarily, I'm going to put the rear body pin in. Just for now, just to help centralise it. Now, that is unsafe. If I take it off, now I am seeing a potential issue here, that in the where the trigger pin goes, I can see that there is, the magnet holder seems to be in the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the trigger pin back in, and I'm going to see what kind of impact that has on it going into safe. Right. Safe. See, now that has locked it up. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to just shave a little bit off the end of that, which is not a problem. It's better to discover this now than later. Shims coming out there off the top of the sector gear. Right, so I'll lift the trigger out, take that out. I'm going to lift this up and out. So all I'm going to do now is I'm literally just going to use a file to just shave about 1 mil off the end. So I've sorted that now. All I've done is I've just filed it down basically. The trigger sits a bit further forward. I just repeated the process a few times until I got it done and sorted. So what we're going to do at this stage now is a bit of a testing stage. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop the sector gear back into the gearbox and find that shim that's just pinged off, and managed to find it. That's literally like unbelievable considering it's very similar colour to the oak laminate flooring I've got down. That is pretty damn impressive. A lot of people are asking why do I show these mistakes and accidents? Because do you know what? It's important that you see this, that everything does not go 100% perfect every single time, that there are mistakes made and things happen, and sometimes you have to just go, oh, yeah, exactly, proverbial. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop that in. I'm going to put the two halves together, excuse me, and we're going to screw it together and we're going to drop it into the receiver and we're going to have a look at basically if the sensors are picking up everything. So I'm just going to screw all these 4 bottom screws down, 5 even. Now we're going to mount it into the body as well, to the receiver. There we go. And I'm going to put the body pins in as well. I'm going to put the rear body pin in, and I'm going to put the trigger pin in as well, because it's important that we get the sort of seating and fitment right for testing purposes. This one in. So now it's back together. I've put the 2 pins in. The safe is working. The semi now allows me to pull. An auto allows me to pull. So what we're going to do now is we're going to test it and make sure at this stage that it's sort of picking things up. So I'm going to plug that in, and the internal light should pick up. So the light white is indicating that it's currently on safe, which it is, and then go to the semi, which should be red. No, it shouldn't. It should be blue, sorry. Auto should be red, and then semi should be blue, safe should be white. So if I go to semi and pull the trigger, I should get purple, which indicates the trigger. If I go to auto and pull the trigger, I get purple, which indicates the trigger. And then if I spin the sector gear, it is picking up. That gear set is there. Absolutely perfect. So the lights are all flashing up. To test it fully, obviously I'm going to have to rebuild it. So let's disconnect this now and see what happens once we've rebuilt it. So I'm just going to drop these pins out first. Flip this over. I'm going to disassemble this again, and then we'll get the gear set in and everything else back in. So I've got the first 2 gears back in. I'm just ready to do this gear. What I'm going to do first is put the compression parts in, just checking that they're in good nick, which they are generally. And we'll pull that in, spin that out of the way. Push that spring down, making sure I get all of those shims there that popped off. Now, check that that's in the right place, and it is. That spring's pushed all the way down that little post there. So what we've got to be careful here is this is going to pop up. What I don't want it to do is lift these, as it is doing, it's lifting these shims up and off. So that's a bit of a pain to just watch out for. I'll tell you what might be easier is if I drop those on there and then line them all up with this. There we go, that's them sorted. Right, so last but not least, the anti-reversal latch. Obviously the spring is on a quick change system, so that makes our life a little bit easier. Just notice then that the red wire had jumped back out again. Drop you back in. So there's the anti-reversal latch. And then making sure you get the shims back on the end. Yeah, that's all right. That's going to jump out. Don't you dare. Right, okay. Let's delicately. Here we go. Thought we got past this. Okay, once again, let's delicately. No, something's, yeah. See, I heard that. Shims dropping off everywhere. What you don't want though is those just floating around inside, because all of your adjustment between your gears goes off and then you end up with all manner of issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently just see if I can keep the air nozzle depressed whilst also trying to do what I can only describe as an Apple keyboard shortcut style hand maneuver, whilst pushing that in and propping that in and that in and not snipping wires. And wow, there we go, sorted. So I can now screw that back down. Whew, that wasn't easy. Hopefully it doesn't explode. All right, let's get this down first, front and back first. Just noticed then that I thought the control wire was getting a little bit nipped, but it's not. It's okay. It's all right. Obviously, when you are reassembling, just make sure that the wires are all where they should be and they're not getting nipped or anything. Obviously, make sure that when you look down into here, you shouldn't be able to see any wires at all, otherwise your motor's just going to chew them up, which obviously we really don't want. That's the gearbox back together. Next I can put the quick release spring back in, poke that in, quarter twist, and that's locked in place. That moves. Safe, semi and auto is there. Happy with that. So let's drop that back into the body then and start some reassembly. So feed the wiring through, obviously being careful not to catch it on anything. Drop those in there. To be fair, other than a little bit of fiddling with the cut off, it's actually been largely quite an easy install. Certainly no more fiddly than a gate tighten in a KWA. Just realigning that. Come on. There we go. And then tap that in there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pistol grip on, then I'm going to put the motor in, and then we can test it and see if it actually comes to life, or if Pheas needs to throw it through the window. Right, okay. You go down there. So pulled, the wires are coming up the back of the pistol grip. The red wire is coming up the back, sorry. The black is coming up the front. And we'll get those screws put down. For some reason in different places. There we go. That's one. Here's number two. pistol grip on. So let's have a look at this. So on this occasion, the red terminal is going to the back. What I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to bend the terminals 90 degrees using some needle nose pliers. So I've got my needle nose, so all I'm going to do is just gently, I'm bending them towards, if you can see inside there is some little curls where the metal is curled round. I'm bending it towards that, so where the curls are, bending it to 90. Same with the black one, find the curls and bend in towards that to 90 degrees. Now, how is the best way to go about this? So that goes in like that. Let's just have a look first. That should come up that side, that should come up that side. So I've got the motor wires, the red came up the back and over onto the red terminal, the black came up this side and over onto the black. I really dislike that style of pistol grip, they are awful. I can only hope that the wires are not too crimped. I will check on that in a minute. So let's see if it comes to life. So safe, semi, auto, hooray, it lives. Wow, okay. Nice, I am happy with that. Really happy with that. Wow, that's made me happy no end. So that's the end of the installation. A video and how to. Obviously, I've got to put the rest of this back together again, and obviously you guys will be able to do the same as well. Sort of a few things. Obviously, make sure when you're running the wires around the track inside the gearbox that they don't get nicked or anything. That's important that they stay nice and safe. Obviously, make sure that the gears are well shimmed, that they're not catching and things like that. Make sure that everything's nice and sort of neat and tidy. When you're putting the trigger pin in, obviously check that first. In terms of the safety, I think the main thing is just keep checking and rechecking and rechecking to make sure that everything's gone together. I've just noticed then that I did have it stuck in semi. I don't know if you noticed or not when I first went back. It did stick in semi, but then was absolutely fine. Might need a little bit of motor adjustment. I am going to check the wires in there. Potentially might advise Louis to get rid of that pistol grip, but absolutely lovely. Let's feel. All the wiring is nice and cold, so I know that there's no resistance in there whatsoever. Do you know what? Let's hear it with an 11.1 on. Just because we can. And I'm going to test it for rate of fire in a minute and come back and announce that. So there's the ping, safe. Oof, that's nearly instantaneous. Full auto. Ooh. Right, okay. So I'm going to check the motor wires, I'm going to rebuild it, get the rate of fire and come back in a second to tell you where we're at. 15.3. Ooh. About 26 and a half. .2, about 2 rounds per second increase. You can't even read here. 27 and a half. I think it's higher than that. The mag's not keeping up and the chrono doesn't seem to want to read it. It's not even reading it properly. So I am back from doing the rate of fire check, and on the 7.4 we've gained about 2 rounds per second. It's up to about 17. On full auto it was genuinely frightening. The mag couldn't keep up, the chrono wasn't reading it properly. The highest reading I got was 27, which is a little bit higher than what we had before, which makes sense. You know, if we got 2 rounds per second higher at 7.4, then 1 to 2 rounds per second higher at 11.1 would make sense. I actually think it possibly was a little bit higher than that. It was absolutely frightening, really impressive. That little Perun is fantastic, but I'll cover that sort of in the other video. So overall, we have seen a jump in performance as well, which is really good. So I hope you found that useful. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. It's been interesting to explore Louis' gun, which he's quote unquote teched on himself. Hope that other people find that useful on how to install that V2. In future, I will be doing an install on a V3 as well. Excuse me. The next follow-up video after this will be the actual unboxing and review of this product that I've installed today, and I will add the link down below once that's gone live. So please do remember to like, comment and subscribe, because those interactions help me get seen by the YouTube algorithms and help the channel grow, and I will see you next time. Bye.